What's up, guys? Scotty2Hockey here, aka the Average Hockey Fan, and I just wanted to give a quick take on Tampa Bay possibly being eliminated from the first round because the cannons are firing in Columbus. Columbus Blue Jackets haven't won a round since their franchise was established in 2001. They have yet to win a round. They've been in there 5 or 6 times at least. I don't know exactly how many times off the top of my head. And Tampa Bay was a lock to be, not win the Stanley Cup, but a lock to be a Stanley Cup contender this year. They came into the regular season looking like the team that knew they were going to win the Stanley Cup. They've been to an Eastern Final, a Stanley Cup Final, and they've won a round 3 out of the past 4 years. And they had 128 points this year. They had the Norris winner from last year. They have the guy who's most likely going to win the Vezina this year. They have a lock for the Hart Trophy this year. They have great scoring depth, a top power play in the league. And like I say, 128-point team in this era, and they're down 3-0 to Columbus Blue Jackets, who had 30 points less than them in the regular season, just barely scraped in and got the second wild card, and had to get a bunch of guys at the deadline to make themselves a Stanley Cup contender. And they pretty much have a team of guys, like some of the guys on their team have only been there 30 or 40 games. They're not really established Columbus Blue Jackets. But now after this playoff series, they're heroes in Columbus, I'm sure, especially if Columbus goes on to win this series. Some other shocking upsets over the years in the first round. They are shocking upsets, but they're not shocking upsets compared to Tampa. Nobody seen this coming. Almost every single playoff bracket I've seen, everybody, every Habs channel, every NHL channel, the hockey guy, everybody who I've looked at, all the analysts, all the experts, nobody gave Columbus a shot in this series. This was the one series with the team going into it where literally nobody gave them a shot. At least in my opinion, from what I've seen, nobody gave them a shot. If there are people out there that pick Columbus, good on you. But some of the biggest upsets are 1970, 1971, the Habs over the Bruins. The Bruins were defending Cup champions. They won the East Division that year. They ran away with it with a 57-14-7 record. And the Habs just barely scraped into the playoffs by the skin of their teeth. They were not expected to be a contender by no means. They bring in a rookie goaltender, Ken Dryden. He stands on his head and has one of the most great playoff performances of a goalie's career ever, like one of the greatest playoff performances ever. If you want to see what Dryden did back in 70, 71, go back and look at the playoffs. I don't have to give it to you in description, just go back and look at it. It's not hard to see how great he was. He had one of the greatest playoff performances back then. Henry Richard was instrumental in that series too. And Montreal went on to beat Boston in 7 games. And then they went on to beat Minnesota in 6 games. And then they went on to beat Chicago in 7. And they won the Stanley Cup. So a huge upset that year for Montreal. That's going to be my second biggest team to ever get knocked out first round. If Tampa gets knocked out first round, they'll slot right into that first spot, the biggest team to ever get knocked out in the first round. And then after that, we had the Oilers in 82, a very famous game where they blew the game in Game 7. I believe they were up like 5-1. They ended up losing 6-1, or they gave up a 5-goal lead at some point. Very famous Game 7. But the Oilers in 1982 lost in Round 7. A really famous Game 5. Those were 5-game series back then. But the Oilers in 1982 lost in Round 1. 3-2 to the LA Kings. LA had 63 points that year. The Oilers had 111, and they had Gretzky, and they lost in the first round. And then after that, my next biggest upset, I had the Blackhawks in 2017 when they lost to LA because LA swept them. Chicago was a 111-point team. I believe they either won the Stanley Cup the year before that or they definitely either won it in 2015 or the year before this year. And they came in, they were a 111-point team. They won the West. They were expected to go on to the Stanley Cup final again. LA just barely scraped in there. I believe they got in there by 1 point. And they ended up sweeping Chicago in 4, so that was my next biggest upset. Those are my other 3 biggest upsets, besides if Tampa gets trounced by Columbus. And as for Columbus, they're up 3-0. They won the games 4-3. Pretty close game. Tampa went up 3-0. Columbus ended up storming back, making it 4-3. Tampa tried to make a game, but at the end, it looked like it was going to be a competitive series. Then we go to Tampa again for Game 2, and Columbus smokes them 5-1. And then we go off on that, and Bobrovsky played really good in Game 3, and Tampa lost 3-1. So Columbus is up 3-0 in this series. Like I say, Columbus has never won a round, and Sergei Bobrovsky is having himself a series. 3 straight wins, up 3-0 in the series, 1.67 goals against, .940 save percentage, continuing his hot streak that he had at the end of the regular season. And their leaders, great acquisition at the deadline. Duchesne, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points, +2, 25%, absolutely giving Tampa fits. Then we have Werenski, I always butcher his name. He has 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points. He's a +2, and he's shooting 20%. And then we have Panarin, who has 1 goal, 3 assists. He has 4 points. His plus-minus is 0, and he's shooting 20% too. So 20% of the shots he's putting are going in. And then Tampa's leaders, Kucherov doesn't have a goal. Stamkos doesn't have a goal. Point doesn't have a goal. And then we have Cernak is their leader. 0 goals, 3 assists, +1. That's their scoring leader in this series. Sergachev is their second leader. 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points, -1. He has a 12.5 shooting percentage. And then we have JT Miller as their third leader. 0 goals, 2 assists, 2 points, 0% shooting. Vasilevsky looking like a far cry from the guy who's possibly going to win the Vezina this year and had 36 wins in the regular season. I believe he had more than that. I believe he had like 38 wins in the regular season, if I'm not mistaken. I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's like 36, 38 or something. Vasilevsky, he's 0-3, obviously. He's 3.73 goals against and a .866 save percentage. So that's your Vezina candidate this year, guys. Your most likely Vezina winner in the playoffs is a .866 save percentage. Looking like Anthony Niemi in the playoffs here. And their only goal scorers are Sergachev, Killorn, Palat, Gord, and Cirelli. So as you can see, there's some big names left off that list. And Nikita Kucherov was suspended for Game 2. And Nikita Kucherov, I believe, doesn't have a point in the series, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, those are the biggest upset. That's going to be the biggest upset in franchise history. And as for Tampa Bay this year, they were absolutely dominant. They were the President's Trophy winner. They had it pretty much wrapped up almost 2 months ago. They had 62 wins, 16 losses, 4 overtime losses, 128 points in our era. That's absolutely sick. First in goals for, first power play, and top 5 in the league in the least amount of goals allowed. So that just shows how crazy this is. Tampa, a team that was to an Eastern Conference final, a Stanley Cup final in the past 3 years, are supposed to be allowed to go to the Stanley Cup final this year and are possibly getting knocked out, possibly even swept in round 1 by the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Cannons are firing in Columbus, and good luck to the Blue Jackets. They knocked the Habs out, so at least it looks like we lost to a great team. We didn't lose straight up to them one-on-one like came down to the last game of the year, and Columbus knocked the Habs out. It came down to the last 4 games. Columbus won 4 straight. Montreal lost 1 out of 4. And sure enough, Columbus got into the playoffs, and look what they're doing. Coulda, shoulda, woulda, but we're not in there, guys. But good luck to the Columbus Blue Jackets, and it looks like Tampa might be going first round. So what do you guys think? What's the biggest team, the best team you've ever seen get knocked out first round? When the Habs knocked out Boston there 4 or 5 years ago, was that one of the best teams you've ever seen get knocked out in the first round? When the Habs knocked out Washington when they had Halak, was that one of the best teams you've ever seen get knocked out in the first round? I believe Colorado got trounced years ago when they were a really good team in the first round. There's a lot of teams out there. My top 3 were the 3 best I could see point-wise and came in as almost locks to win the Cup or be Stanley Cup's contender and ended up getting knocked out. Anyways, guys, like, subscribe. Please ring the bell for my upcoming videos, and feel free to leave a comment. I truly appreciate you viewing this video and help me get to 100 subs. This is Scotty2Hockey, aka The Average Hockey Fan, and it looks like Tampa Bay is on the verge, on the brink of losing. Go Habs, go, baby. Over and out.